This is part 86 of my series on my N-gauge model railway project. Previous parts cover the project from its inception through the creation of the baseboard, selection and laying of track, building of scenic items, obtaining rolling stock, etc. The project is ongoing. This part deals with another loco that came in the post this week, a Dapol 45XX GWR small Prairie, and also with efforts in track cleaning that were required during the initial testing of this loco, and which involved the Woodlands Scenics Tidy Track cleaning system, which I acquired recently. Spoiler alert, I wasn't very impressed with the Tidy Track product. Here's the new loco as it arrived in its box, bought used from Rails of Sheffield. This is a small loco, and it came in a small box, less than 4 3/4 inches long, looking more appropriate for a wagon. Here's the model with the outer sleeve off, nicely packaged, as have been I think all of the Dapol products I've acquired. And here with the lid off the transparent box. I've yet to be disappointed looking at a Dapol N-gauge model. I got the loco down onto the tracks for some initial running on the outer line, as the other lines were currently occupied by trains I hadn't really finished with. But I had real trouble persuading my Olympus camera to focus on this loco in Scrapped-Off Station. The camera has no manual focus, and the autofocus quite often flatly refuses to actually focus on the intended subject. So I gave up and put the loco onto the inner line for its initial portrait, as I know I can get the camera to work in this position. As you may see, this is a very nicely detailed and finished model in almost all respects. The GWR 4500 class are known as small Prairie tank engines, since they have the Prairie 262 wheel arrangement and are very distinct in design and much smaller than the various large Prairie GWR tank classes. Here you can see the new Dapol 45XX beside a Graham Farish model of a large Prairie engine, in this case a 3100 class, which was the earliest of the large Prairie classes, which are perhaps best known for the Tanner 1 6100s, which were very prevalent on secondary passenger services in the late GWR days. As you can see, the small Prairie really is a lot smaller than the large Prairie. The 4500 class was introduced in 1906. They were based on the earlier 4400 class, but with slightly larger driving wheels to give them a bit more speed. They were designated as small mixed traffic locomotives and mainly used on branch lines. 55 were built between 1906 and 1915, and then a further 20 were built just after amalgamation in 1924. 3 of the class are preserved, currently with the Severn Valley, West Somerset and Dartmouth railways, so far as I know. When I first ran this model, it was quite balky, basically getting stuck every time it tried to go over a set of points. I had it on the bench and cleaned the wheels, which considerably improved this situation. However, it still was an uneven runner, but then essentially every Dapol locomotive I have obtained has proved an uneven runner with my Kato track controllers and sound boxes. See my previous sub-video on this subject. Let's see a bit of running video of my initial attempts with this loco after cleaning its wheels. Okay, so here we go, starting it off on the outside track. I'm sorry, I'm trying to operate the controls and the camera at the same time, so it's a bit awkward. And we got it going round rather fast there, and it derailed on the point. That may be because I didn't get it railed up right in the first place. I never could quite decide. I had a number of instances of derailing, and I wasn't sure whether the loco itself was derailing, sometimes on points even when it was properly railed, or whether it was always just because I wasn't quite getting it railed quite right in the first place. Certainly it's a bit sensitive, but I did get it to run around quite a bit successfully, so maybe I just wasn't quite getting it railed properly. Now it's gone and got stuck inside the tunnel, which of course is the worst place to get stuck, because though it's possible to lift that tunnel, it's not easy because it's got the coal mine and everything on top of it. So we'll turn the power off, and I'm putting the little Graham Farish Ginty, which is my go-to utility engine, on. It uses very little power. You could see it started to move there even with the power still set. sorry, there's noise because I'm moving the camera. The Jinty started to move there even with the power set to 0 for the 4500, and in goes the Jinty, and yes, it pokes out the 4500, and there comes the Jinty following it. They didn't couple together, however. They do both have couplings on, but they didn't couple together. So there's the Jinty, and the 4500's gone off ahead of it. There's plenty of power on the line to run both of these. The Jinty doesn't use very much at all, and even the 4500's not a high power user. So now we've got it out from the tunnel, we'll try and find the 4500 again. Where's he gone to? He's up there by the sidings. And we'll bring him round again and see if we can get him round this time. We have to go through the tunnel a little bit faster, I think. There is, the track's a little bit dirty inside the tunnel. So we've got to keep him moving faster. The problem with that is, you know, if you've got to keep him moving faster all the time, it's not a very great demonstration of the loco. Given that the loco was still running very jerkily and tending to get stuck, especially under the tunnel, which of course is the worst place to get something stuck, I decided I'd better make a concerted effort to clean the track. I had recently picked up this Woodlands Scenics Tidy Track cleaning system in hopes it would make my track cleaning efforts easier and more thorough. I had heard some folks speak well of this system. This is basically what you get with the Tidy Track system for about $30. A handle with a tilting head, various pads, some felt, some of a rubber-like material, and a small bottle of brand-name cleaning fluid and an instruction booklet. Here are the pads that you get, 2 each of softer and harder rubber-like stuff and 2 grades of felt pads. Here I have got the harder rubber pads attached to the head. You need to attach 2, so you only have 1 set of each effectively. I have the pads mounted lengthwise, which is what you're supposed to do for N gauge. If you mount them sideways, they will fit over OO-HO gauge track. For O gauge, I think you have to turn the head itself sideways. Here's a close-up of the bottle of cleaning fluid. What drew me to this system was the handle. It seemed that a handle like this with a rotating head might really help to get into difficult-to-reach parts of the track. I have to say I was very disappointed with the results with this system. It's very hard to actually run the cleaning pads over the tracks, I found. They tend to snag at every joint, and as for trying to run them over any kind of point work, forget it. I don't see how you could possibly clean points with this system. The felt pads tend to shred quickly. The rubber pads do clean the track up to a point if you can get them to run over it evenly. The cleaning fluid certainly works, but not, I believe, really significantly better than isopropyl alcohol, which is, of course, way cheaper. What I've been using to clean my track is these Pico cleaners, which pretty much resemble erasers, but are actually harder and much better at cleaning a track than an eraser would be. And essentially this time I largely gave up on the Tidy Track system and went back to using these. These can be controlled easily and do an excellent job of cleaning. Their only flaw is their small size and the need to get your fingers right down onto the track to use them. In this case I lifted the tunnel from the layout entirely to clean the track under there with a Pico cleaner and then replaced the tunnel afterwards. I'm afraid the Tidy Track system is going to get relegated to only occasional use where it might help to reach a difficult place. So let's have a look at my attempts to run the Dapol 4500 after cleaning the track. Still pretty jerky, I'm afraid. So the wheels of the loco have been cleaned now and the track's been cleaned. Now this bit of track there straight in front of me was cleaned with a Tidy Track cleaner, and frankly it seems to have done a less good job on the whole than the Pico did, which is what I ended up using for cleaning most of the, or pretty much all of the rest of the track. Well, we got, now at least we're going through the tunnel without any hesitation in the tunnel. will we get over the points here without derailing? Yes, we did. There's quite a bit of point work at that end of the layout there on the outside track, because there's a couple of sets of sidings. Still going rather fast, but we're not getting any hesitation going through the tunnel now. I've cleaned that. Nevertheless, even going fast like this and on fairly clean track, I don't feel this loco is running what I would call really smoothly. Like, it's not running at a really nice, smooth, consistent speed, and I find Dapol locos never really do on my Kato layout. We'll try in a minute. I will try and slow it down a little bit. Yes, that's why I stopped moving the camera there, because I took my hand off to slow down the controller. So now we're going a bit slower. And the unevenness in the running is even more pronounced now we're going slower. Oh, well, that's a dirty spot. That's not the loco's fault. I cleaned that with that Woodlands Scenics Tidy Track cleaner, and it somehow left a dirty spot there. Now the point on the crossover there is straight. If you look at it behind the loco now, you can see it is actually straight. So the loco went off there because it was derailed, probably because I jogged it when I pushed it. But now the point in the crossouts turned. Somehow when I picked the loco up from the crossover there, I accidentally turned the point, because I can see, looking at that point there, that first point on the crossover, it's set to turn. But I didn't notice that when I was running. So of course now when I run the loco, it's going to turn at the crossover and get stuck. But that wasn't the loco's fault. That was because I'd knocked the crossover point over. The first time the loco was derailed, but then that was probably because when I jogged it, when it got stuck on the dirty point, that probably knocked its... See, I flipped the crossover there electrically, made it cross and then made it not cross, so now all 4 points are set straight. And I'll re-roil the loco again, and hopefully it will go through the crossover okay this time. You can't blame the loco for the little dirty spot on the track there. So I think it was just because I didn't get the Woodlands Scenics cleaner quite level as I was going along, and it kind of left a patch of cleaning fluid with some dirt dissolved in it on the track that settled and made a dirty spot. I checked it out after I finished this running session and cleaned it again before the final running session. You can see there the loco hesitated at that dirty spot. Before the final running session with the train, I cleaned that piece of track again with a Pico cleaner, which I find generally, I find it much easier to do a good job of cleaning the track with a Pico cleaner than with the Woodlands Scenics cleaner. So there we are, I guess. Oh, we're going round again. I tell a lie. I'm taking it round one more time. Should be clean now, basically. Wheels should be clean, track should be clean. But it still tends to, go a little bit faster, a little bit slower all the time. But I find that's just what Dapol locos do with my Kato controllers. After doing what I could to basically test and run in the loco light engine, I picked out some wagons to run with it as a train. These are the company wagons I recently acquired locally from a Kijiji seller. GWR stock on the right-hand side. I coupled 8 of these new GWR wagons up behind the 4500. I had to dig out a GWR towed brake van from previous stock, as the new purchase didn't include any GWR brake van. Here's that train going round by the woods, and here coming round by Scrapped Off Station. The 4500 is a small engine with no traction tyres, but it didn't have any trouble pulling this train on the outer line, which is relatively flat. So now let's just have a look at video of the 4500 pulling this train. So here we go with the 8 wagons and the brake van behind the 4500. The track's clean underneath the tunnel now, so no hesitation as we go through the tunnel. Actually, if anything, these Dapol locos seem to run a bit more smoothly when on my Kato layout when they've got a load behind them than they do when they're running light engine. See, it seems to me the tendency of the loco to jerk, to run faster and slower is less noticeable now it's pulling the train than it was when it was running light engine. I don't quite understand why they do it, but it seems to be pretty universal. I've got quite a number of Dapol locos now, and every single one of them shows a tendency to run somewhat unevenly on my Kato controllers. They do pull trains though. Okay, the bigger ones have traction tyres, which enables them to pull trains. This one doesn't have traction tyres. It's got 6 driving wheels. I haven't tried it yet, because this was basically the first day I was trying it out. I haven't tried it on the inner track with the gradients yet. I'm a bit doubtful whether it would even get this train up the gradient. It certainly wouldn't get a longer train up the gradient, because it's not going to have a massive amount of pulling power. It's not a terribly heavy loco, and it's got no traction tyres. But it does fine on the flat with this train. And it's a nice looking loco. There you are then, another nice looking Dapol loco, but showing the tendency to be jerky, uneven running, which seems to be typical for Dapol engines on my Kato layout, and an attempted innovation in track cleaning, which largely resulted in my going back to doing things the way I had been doing them before.